Welcome to Rainbow Soul Podcast, where our Soulstrology comes forward to help you manage your everyday life, with forecasts and deep dives on natal charts and queer perspectives on the planets, transits, and more. A group discussion about upcoming transits with tips on how to read these transits in your own chart. Hollis offers years of wisdom and natal chart knowledge with Bright Hawk's positive perspective and Lacrosse's inquiry. We offer the complete queer astrology experience. Welcome to Rainbow Soul. Please help us by subscribing, sharing, and commenting and reviewing. You can also learn where else Rainbow Soul is offered on our website at rainbowsoul.show.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. This is Rainbow Soul Vodcast. I'm Hollis Taylor. I'm one of your hosts today. I'm also an astrologer, and you can get private astrology readings from me. I even have a class that you can purchase that's sort of like work at your own pace type of thing. If you'd like to learn the basics of astrology, they're all in my in the link below, divineandrogen.com, which is listed in the description below.
Hi there. I'm Bright Hawk. You can always learn more about me at brighthawkproductions.com. I'm an artist, astrologer, author, musician. Didn't have an A word there. And
I'm Lacrosse Ortiz, jack of all trades and master of none. I have a podcast, Master of None. I am the creator of The Fool's Journey Color Journal, and you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Pretty much I'm getting more and more all over the place now. So
Fantastic. That's great. And so friends, this week we are going to do a projection for August 12th through the 18th, if I can speak correctly, but we can definitely tell Mercury's in retrograde, eh? So
tongue-tied and weird words.
Things don't quite yeah. Okay. So
what Hollis is trying to say is the week we will cover is August 12th to the 18th.
That's what I'm trying to say. Virgo,
I do
Mercury
the decks,
ruled.
So
definitely a Mercury ruled person. So Mercury means that you're a Mercury ruled person if you are a Virgo or Gemini sun sign, or if it's rising. If it's your moon, you probably still notice it. But I noticed that most of the people that are bothered the most are people that are Virgo or Gemini sun or rising. Okay. All right, my friends. So let's take a minute to ground out. Now, if we just take this moment to breathe. Close your eyes and get present in the here and now. And if you walk along in your mind out into the dark with the night sky above you, your feet on the ground, feeling present in the here and now. And as we stare up into the night sky, the stars seem to go on forever. Helping us to connect with the universe and the planets and the sky. And there's one constellation that stands out to you, and it comes up as a symbol for you. Kind of looks like the Roman numeral number 2. The twins in the sky, known as Gemini. And within that constellation is the planet of Jupiter, ready and set up to have conversations about what is right, what is just, and how it should be. Jupiter being tied to the sign of Sagittarius, the opposite now needs to communicate the philosophies of wrong versus right, of integrity. And this conversation that will come up in our personal lives and in our world, in our countries, in our states. It will apply to things that affect everyone, like politics and governments, wars. And as we begin to process and talk about it, those communications will come into a square, and a line goes from the sky where Jupiter is to Saturn. A line is drawn, a bright red line, to Saturn. Saturn traveling backwards in the constellation of Pisces reminds us, hey, we are rebuilding here. We have to change. Things need to change. What have you learned so far? What else needs to change? And as Jupiter communicates with Saturn in that conversation, it helps us to know in our personal lives and in the world what needs to change and why and how. And as you take a deep breath, you recognize that regardless of what's happening in this moment, in these times ahead, they are destined to unfold exactly as they should, to carry us forward into a brighter tomorrow. And you are assured from Jupiter that it will be just, it will be right. And as you feel that reassurance from the sky, allow yourself to come back into your soul, into your body. Feel your feet on the floor and your seat on the back. Take a deep breath and be assured, no doubt, the universe is unfolding exactly as it should. Wiggle your toes, stretch your fingers and open your eyes, and come back into the here and now on Rainbow Soul Podcast. Well done, Bright Hawk. Well done. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Wow. So that was, just my intuition. So I'm excited to review this week's astrology. And so let me just take a minute to get it up here. So like we said, this is for the week of August 12th through the 18th. Okay, great. It shows up. Sometimes I'm not always confident and I don't always assume that things show up. Okay, so this is from August 12th to the 18th. And one of the first things that you will begin to notice that is kind of a hot topic in astrology right now is that Jupiter is in a square to Saturn. Now, I'm pretty sure this goes on for quite a while. I'm pretty sure it goes on until like
the end of the month.
Yeah.
I just did the chart where it finally changed. I think it's a lot of things change come September 2nd.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be very
because Mercury's going to go direct, and
well, Mercury will have definitely been direct the week before, and then we've seen Pluto sitting at 0 degrees, and it changes like seconds a day. So it finally steps its toe back into a Capricorn on September 2nd. And that square finally ends. That trine goes on all month, again, ending around that time. The trine between Pluto, Mars, and Jupiter, of course, conjunct, and it goes to Saturn as well. So,
okay. So do you mean Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune? This one?
Sorry. Yeah, no, actually, yeah, I was reading.
Yeah, so it's
line.
Uranus.
Yeah,
Uranus
sorry.
and Taurus is in a trine to Pluto, but they are like 3 degrees off. Yeah. So, and then Neptune is in a trine at 29 degrees. I would consider Uranus and Neptune in a pretty strong trine. Pluto's such a slow mover. It seems to affect it more when it's within 1 degree.
Yeah.
And that's usually what I notice about it. Now, if you do look at this, you also see that Mercury is going retrograde, and it is only 1 degree from an inconjunct with Pluto. And it's also in conjunct with Neptune. So I feel like Mercury's going retrograde. It's going over all of, and this also aligns with the Jupiter Mars alignment in a square to Saturn, especially in our politics, because Mercury's going backwards and saying, are you sure all of those things were true? Are you sure that's true? Those were some illusions you might have been under. And I feel like there are some politicians that are really breaking through those sort of illusions, which has to do with Neptune, right? Neptune in Pisces it's retrograde. And if you've been wondering, like, why do we have so much fake news? Well, Neptune's been in Pisces for God knows how long, and it feels like forever. And it creates that because especially when it's retrograde, because Neptune is about illusions and delusions, and its rulership is Pisces. And that's at the bottom of that yod with Pluto in Aquarius, whom is moving also backwards. They're both moving backwards, and Mercury is moving backwards. So I feel like we're reviewing old stuff, which is probably really good because with Jupiter and Mars in a square to Saturn, Jupiter is saying who's moving direct. Jupiter is very now Sagittarius and Gemini are opposites, but opposites in astrology don't always mean 100% opposite. Like, for instance, Pisces and Virgo, they have some things in common, and they also have some things absolutely opposite, right? Like, Virgo is very driven about their health, while Pisces is very driven about partying, okay? Or hanging out with their friends. It's true. And that's okay. That's what they see as healthy to them, okay? Now, the same thing happens with Gemini and Sag, where Sag is very much like, the truth is not, you can't change. The truth is a hard line. And that's Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is very much like that. And Gemini is kind of like, well, it's actually more like water. And and Gemini is more like, it's more like air. What did you see? Okay. And Gemini's tends to see it as, it depends on what perspective you're coming from.
Right.
Okay. And so, but Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. And there is one thing about Jupiter in Gemini, is it tends to say to Gemini, let's do the right thing, which does appeal to Gemini. They don't intentionally lie or intentionally try to be bad people. I mean, some people do, but it's not every Gemini, okay? And so Jupiter there is kind of saying, hey, rise up from Sagittarius, and says, we know these things are definitely lies. Like, you can't say this is not what happened, right? And we're proving it every day by repeating, especially in our politics, we're showing, remember when this happened? Remember when that guy did this? Remember when that redheaded stepchild did this? Okay. And we're doing that right now. And if you do, all you have to do is turn on the news for 5 minutes, and you will get a review of what happened back in 2019, 2020, when the pandemic came, okay? And people are reviewing, because we're having to also review the new president, the new potential president, which is Kamala Harris, right? And her vice president choice. And so we're having to review, and I think that's creating a level of review with Mercury retrograde and that yod pointing to Mercury retrograde, because Neptune and Pluto are down there saying, are you sure this is true? And Jupiter in a square to Saturn is saying, is that the right thing? Is that what you want again? Do you want that again?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are like, I'll go with the new girl on the block.
Well, I find this chart just fascinating on 50 million different levels, because you also have this sun in a T-square with the moon, you have the moon in a T-square. It's opposite, the moon is opposite Uranus, and it creates a T-square to the sun. So where the sun, Mercury, and Venus are, there's still that potency of energy, right? And what you just said about Mercury and Virgo. And then we have still pretty tight Jupiter-Mars conjunction. And when the Mars-Jupiter conjunction happened, a ton of things happened. The assassination attempt, Biden doing the noble stand-up, what you just described thing, be aim high.
Right.
And then now the political scene. So the other thing I'm going to notice that's very interesting about this chart and this time is this long-standing Uranus Pluto trine. It's going to go on for a really long time. That should be good for people like me, born in 1964. Guess who else was born in 1964?
Well, Kamala Waltz,
Harris,
right?
and Waltz. Both of them, Waltz, yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
wow,
that's going to be really fortunate because, of course, Uranus and Pluto, it's big, it's generational, it's and we know very transformational, things you didn't expect because Uranus is involved, of course, but it's a trine. So it's like, look at how positive everybody is now. Now there's energy in the Democratic Party like we've never seen before. And well, I think we saw it with Obama. It reminds me a lot of Obama. There's hope again. Like, oh my God, we could make the world better.
We could actually do this.
So that's very interesting. I'm just looking at that going, wow. And then you have that T-square, which points to a similar part of the sky as the Mercury in the Yod. Because the sun and Mercury are only 9 degrees apart. Or 11 degrees. Sorry, I went the wrong way.
Yeah, it's okay. And I'm noticing that the moon and Uranus are also, of course, they're opposite each other in opposite signs. And then you start thinking about that, and you start thinking about, well, Uranus being that sort of revolutionary moving forward. Come on, everyone's got to be included. In Taurus, who's more like, but we've always done it this way. Let's do it the way we've always done it. Like, I'm not sure change is good for us, but it's in opposition to the moon in Scorpio, and they're both in a square to the sun in Leo. And Leo is kind of fixed too, but Leo is willing to, I notice in its fixed energy, it's willing to change if it includes everyone. Because Leo generally is what's more important to Leo than the fear of change. Like Leo energy generally wants everyone to be included or everyone to be lifted up, particularly if they deserve it, right? And so Uranus and the moon are both squaring it. And during this time, while this yacht is happening on August 12th, and the moon in Scorpio is the opposite of that Uranus and Taurus, where it's like change must happen. We must transform. Something must change. And even though it's all fixed energy with a T-square there, because that's all fixed energy. Taurus is fixed, Leo is fixed, and Scorpio is fixed. But Scorpio tends to transform when it's necessary, especially if it means lifting up people that have quote unquote lesser privilege or that are in need of a lift up for some reason. Scorpio tends to have a sort of soft spot for people that are, living in wheelchairs, or people that have some sort of disability, or LGBTQ community, or people of color. Scorpio tends to naturally have that kind of soft spot for that, and so does Leo, but Scorpio more so. And then with that T-square there, it's really telling a story with the Yod and Uranus trine Pluto. It's really saying, come on, step up, people, step up, including like the war with Gaza. From what I understand, we are finally starting to enter into some peace talks about that, which is really good, like trying to say, hey, but the people of Gaza deserve, their own land too. And, those kinds of conversations are really good. We need to have those conversations. So, and I think that's like what's happening like on the world stage. But then when you come down to your life, what is it that you really need? What really needs to be happening for you? And what would feed you? What would make you happier? What in your life needs to change in order for you to be able to step forward? What are you reviewing right now? Oh, my job just has to change. I can't do it anymore. Or I have to work different hours, or I have to change this or that, or I have to make more money. Whatever it is, for you, I'm going to suggest that you take time to think about it, especially on August 12th.
Yeah.
With that square, and that Scorpio moon will probably give some intuitive ideas on how to move forward.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. I took the words right out of your mouth, literally.
Precisely the vibe of a Scorpio moon.
Right.
You will suddenly have insight.
Right, because Scorpio is very intuitive.
Yeah.
And then on August 13th, so a lot of what we just talked about will continue, like Jupiter in a square to Saturn and Uranus in a trine to Pluto. A lot of those things are going to continue, and there'll be other planets that might join the conversation through that. Like on Tuesday here, you can see Venus joins the conversation between Jupiter and Saturn, which is good because that's probably about money and practicality and land, because Venus in Virgo makes me think about land. It makes me think about the earth. It makes me think about the planet. It makes me think about environmentalists. Okay. So that's great because we all need to be having that conversation too, right? About the environment. And it looks like, Bright Hawk, that the moon now being in opposition over in Scorpio is now more of an opposition in Sag.
Yes. And so right before the moon goes into Sagittarius, it goes void in the morning, mountain time for us, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We have some interesting voids, of course, moons coming up, which, remember, that's when the emotional energy is at its weakest. Okay. And you can really take advantage of that as a time to just chill, take care of yourself, go for a forest walk, go for whatever self-care is for you. It is good to pay attention to void of course moons to avoid certain things and to use it for certain things. So if you need to have a time that's not emotional, like maybe there's a conversation with somebody who's just, it's always too dramatic or whatever, this is take advantage of a void of course moon. The other thing you can do during a void of course moon, besides self-care and chill, is things that you want to just go easily, go without oversight, a lot of scrutiny, whatever. Something like filing taxes or whatever, just like things where no energy here, conversation with your boss, things like that. So at any rate, that happens in the morning on Tuesday. And then the thing I noticed the most about this moon is that it's squaring both Venus and Mercury. And of course, it's now opposite that Mars. Well, as the day goes on, it'll become more of a T-square with Mars and Jupiter, opposite Mars and Jupiter. So,
yeah, and I'm feeling like that Mars and Jupiter and Gemini is going to be more of showing the truth. Yeah. I really feel like, and I think that it does, that certain actions can reveal the truth. And when things do happen, it does reveal the truth. And I didn't know what the assassination attempt would reveal, but
sounds like it's still unraveling.
Right. And I'm just saying that things like that happen, whether they're in your personal life, smaller things that might happen, or things that get you worried, or try not to worry about it. Just allow things to unfold, but be open when things do happen to say, what's the bigger lesson here? What's the bigger perspective? What am I supposed to learn from this?
It's a better question for sure, especially with Uranus involved, because things are going to happen. We've all had stuff, I'm sure, over the last couple of weeks when Mercury went into retrograde. Oh, I guess I have to do that again. Yep, I guess I have to do that again. We have Jupiter and Gemini with Mars and Gemini, and that just means you're going to have to do things multiple times. So don't get too pissed. I did it with the deck last week. I was like, oh my God, I have to do it again. Are you kidding me? I just finished it. But that's what happens. And so I try to use it as a learning opportunity. Usually you do it better, faster the second time. What do we need to learn?
Right. So what do we need to learn from that? I think that's like the best thing you can do here, is that there might be some surprises for you depending on how your chart's lined up. You definitely want to notice if you have anything mid-degree Gemini. If you have anything going on in the middle of Gemini, somewhere between like 11, 12, all the way through 20. In Gemini, Jupiter and Mars are conjunct to that, meaning on top of. And then of course over in Virgo. So Virgo and especially where Virgo and Leo meet. So the last few degrees of Leo and the first few degrees of Virgo are definitely you're gonna experience something. It could be very well really great stuff, and it could turn out to be really great in the end. So I wouldn't worry about it. I would just allow it to unfold. And I always, in any moment where I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? I usually calm myself down by taking a few deep breaths. No doubt the universe is unfolding exactly as it should. And I start looking at my astrology. I start looking at what the bigger picture is here, what's really happening here, And it took me a little time to get perspective when my sun fell out, but I'm glad that I did, because over time I slowly unfolded it as I got less and less traumatized, because when you're traumatized, your frontal lobe shuts down. So you're not thinking clearly. And that's why it's really great to like get readings or whatever from other people. And so you just try to stay grounded through the experience. And that's how I kept myself grounded. No doubt the universe is going to take us somewhere. This is going to lead us somewhere. I just don't know where right now. And navigating the unknown can be very scary and overwhelming. And I knew it would lead us somewhere. And now, as we reflect back with Mercury going backwards, I'm kind of glad it happened this way, because it could have happened a lot of other ways. And if it hadn't happened this way, my son could have just died. And that is possible with the heart condition that we've been diagnosed and challenged with. So it's good that it happened this way, because now he can get that device, and maybe I'm to get the device too, to prevent this from happening, from either of us dying in the future unnecessarily or suddenly from this heart condition. Okay. And so I just feel like now that I can back up and take a look. So take this moment with Mercury retrograde and just back up, take a look, and see what you can conclude in what, maybe there's something bigger going on here, maybe there's something beyond that what you thought of. Maybe there's a bigger message here. And I think that's the trick. That's the trick. And in this time, the way everything is set up to be so destined and just unfolding the way it is in your personal life, if there are things happening in your life right now, I'm just going to say, just take that moment and just reassure yourself, like we did in the meditation, that it's leading you somewhere, even if you can't see where it is, right? Sort of like being in a dark maze, if you've ever been in one of those like haunted house things where you don't know where it's going to lead you. You don't know what it's going to look like when you get out, but you know that nothing's going to happen to you between now and then. Right? Okay. Like you're going to eventually walk out of this thing. And that's exactly, I think that's the best attitude to have.
For sure.
Yeah. So I feel like that's what's going on in our personal lives and in the universe, like in our country and in the world, on the world stage. So as things unfold throughout the week, on Wednesday, we do have 2 T-squares. And it could be a challenging day, but there is also a grand trine. So I feel like the day it might depend on where your placements are for you. I don't think everybody would have a bad day, but I think it could be possible that it could be a challenging day, not a bad day, a challenging day. And you can take that challenge and maybe change it.
Well, especially because the challenge is the grand trine in fire. Chiron is in Aries. Chiron is all about, helping you learn from things you would never choose. But as long as you've found yourself in that situation, what can we learn from it?
Right.
What's the silver lining? What's the unexpected blessing that comes from these crazy things that sometimes you have to wait a little bit, meditate on it. Boy, there's some insights I've had in my life that, oh my God, 20 years. It took me 20 years to get that, but yeah, I've definitely had that experience. And Chiron is all about helping you learn from whatever wounds have cut you, hurt you, inside or out. And it's usually core to your identity because the sun is involved. So that's very emotional and potent because the moon in Sagittarius, the moon sparkles in Sag, and of course, Sag is fire as well. So all of these are fire, and Leo sun. So fire is definitely about transformation, and so hopefully it's not too challenging, but it is a trine, so it's meant to be a blessing.
And I think grand trines and fires can sometimes be hard. It's like a trial by fire, but I think that it's like, because of what just happened, I found this really beautiful thing, and it can come together very easily. Like, you don't have to work so hard for it. Like, it's more like, oh man, that really terrible thing happened, but I'm so kind of grateful it did because it led me to this. So I feel like that's really what's happening here. And with the two T squares, one with Venus in Virgo, which makes me feel about like money and land, and with Mars and Gemini, with Jupiter, makes me feel like what is right, and what should be done.
There's a lot of fated energy and emotional energy in this chart.
Yeah.
Because you have the moon in so many aspects. And of course, the moon represents emotion. Grand trines are wonderful, but all these squares, which are kind of continuing, the yods, which are finger of gods, that literally point to Mercury. This yod doesn't just go away in a day or two because it's got Pluto and Neptune on the base, and they are very slow. Mercury's not, though.
Yeah,
but
right.
Mercury is pretty slow right now because it's retrograde.
Right, because it just started its retrograde pattern.
Yeah, so
and it hasn't moved into Leo just yet.
So those energies tend to, so even, and you can see how it even how strong it is on the next day.
Yeah,
or on Thursday,
right,
15th.
Thursday, it does move back into Leo, and I think that's going to shift the I'm aware of this that's wrong into this is what I have to do to make it better. This is how I have to step up. This is what I have to change. And I think that with Neptune and Pluto down there, it's really about change and maybe changing our perspective, changing our belief system, and Mercury going backwards is kind of making us review that. And when it moves from Virgo to Leo, which Virgo is a little bit more a lot more health centered, and Leo is a little bit more empowerment and me centered.
So I was going to say self-centered. Come on. I'm a Leo moon. I know what I'm talking about. The other thing is when Mercury steps back into Leo, what I just heard when you said that was, if it's meant to be, it's up to me, right? You go back into the me signs. Leo and Sagittarius are both me signs. Aquarius and Gemini are both we signs. And so it's an interesting, it'll be interesting to see how it feels different when Mercury is in Leo. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be about stepping up. It's going to be, Leo is all about leadership, right? And being the noble lion, the leader, taking care of the big picture. What is, and I love living by what is for the greatest good of all.
Sure.
May it be so for the greatest good of all, right? So that's the vibe I hope prevails. Mercury can, be a challenge for sure.
And I feel like Venus isn't quite opposite of Saturn quite yet, but you could start seeing some money things come up. But I think with those 2 grand trines, Thursday could actually be a really great day. Very destined. A lot of things could come to resolve. And it's probably the best day of the week with 2 grand trines involving the sun and Mercury and the moon and Chiron. I really feel like the healing is going to happen on Thursday. You're really going to be able to step up into being like, okay, I think I got this.
Yeah.
I think I figured this out. I think this is going to be okay. And instead of, because Virgo can be very worry.
Yeah.
So if you find that you're worrying a lot, Mercury is in retrograde in Virgo. So once it gets to Leo, you're probably more likely to be like, wow, I can do this. I think I can. Like instead of worrying, And so I feel like that's really, by the time you get to Thursday, you're going to really feel like you can do this and that things are going maybe better than you thought.
Yeah. Lean into the Chiron and the moon energy and work with your beliefs, work with your positive affirmations and seeing the better side of things instead of seeing the worst, and it'll go better.
Yeah, I mean, it still worries me a little bit with Jupiter and Mars there. I'm just gonna say they kind of are changing. They're kind of, doing this over there in Gemini, and they're both in a square. One's in a square. They're in a square to Venus, and they're in a square to Saturn, and that makes me feel like the system and riots and protests and yeah. So if you're starting to see like protests or maybe it's even a protest in your own life, especially like if Gemini's in your 5th house, your kids might be protesting against the chores you gave them or something, like who knows? So it's just going to depend on where it is in your chart. But I just feel like there could be a loud energy of that because Jupiter tends to amplify. And as we've mentioned before, Mars and Jupiter together did sort of trigger the assassination attempt. But at the same time, it also helped Biden realize what was right and step down. And it did help some other good things happen, right? So, and frankly, when Jupiter came into Gemini, also that is when Donald Trump was found guilty of the charges, and that so like Jupiter tends to make the right thing happen. Okay, not that the assassination attempt against Trump was correct, but it did reveal some things, and he's okay. Ultimately, he's okay, but it did reveal some things. And I feel like that's what Jupiter and Gemini does. It reveals things that are truth or that are at least kind of shift your perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I feel like on Thursday, it's going to be better of the whole week because you're going to have that T square with Jupiter and Mars for like the entire week. So, so if you're starting to see like protests and things like that come up, that's what's going on. Don't think it's like the end of the world or whatever. We're supposed to be having this conversation, remember? So, and that means, and that's the conversation. The conversation is, we don't think there needs to continue to be a war in Gaza or whatever the conversation is, whatever people are protesting, maybe that needs to be heard. Okay. And sometimes especially the GLBTQ community of all the groups in the world that knows that protests are important, vital, and necessary, we can be them because we have fought hard for our rights and we've had to protest it from the beginning. And that was what pride was, right? That's what pride is and was a protest for our rights to be gay. And then later on, we had to protest for the right to marry. And now sometimes we have to protest for the rights to be transgender. Okay. And so like those are very important things because they include even small smaller minorities of people that we still want to include. And that's what I'm talking about with Jupiter and Gemini. And with Mars there, could definitely create protests. And I know that there's some protests going on in the UK right now, and maybe some of those issues need to be addressed, and we need to address some of the issues that they're bringing up, whether even if they feel racist or whatever. I think we sometimes still need to listen to them. As the strong lefter over here, I'm so far left you can't reach me. I still think you have to listen to them and hear what they're saying underneath. Okay. So I just think that there's a lot of protests going on, and I think that Jupiter and Mars is just going to keep bringing them.
Yeah, that Jupiter Mars is just
it's in a square to Saturn, so
it's a lot of intensity for a long time. It like doesn't let up it's just like, wow, man, this is intense. And the moon, I didn't put it correct on the side. It's in Capricorn. It's no longer in Sag. So that means I also missed what the void of course moon was, which I think it's pretty minor.
Okay.
That square to the nodes, whenever the moon is squaring the nodes, it happens fairly frequently. I don't know how exactly frequently, but like once a month or once every other month or something. Yeah. So of course the south node relates. And so the nodes, if you didn't know this, represent the luminaries. They relate to the moon. So this is the moon having a hard conversation with the south and north node. So the south node represents the past karma and what you might have come in with potentially. Relations you might have from the past. And then the north node, of course, represents the future, the opposite. And of course, in what's called draconian astrology, they look a lot at the nodes, and the nodes are used a lot when we're talking in predictive astrology. So, yeah.
So I would say that with the moon in Capricorn, Capricorn's ruled by Saturn.
Right.
So again, I think that the protests are necessary. So I think it brings us back to that protest thing, because Saturn's in a square to Jupiter and Mars, which kind of points to big violence, speaking to what's right and what's wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's in an opposition to Venus in Virgo, which almost makes me think of like the indigenous people protesting, I want my land back. So Capricorn in a square to the nodes makes me feel like it's saying, okay, so recognize where we came from, South Node in Libra. Okay, this is the relationship we did have, but now we need to take lead and change this. And I feel like that's the moon in Capricorn square that. So it's going to sort of support what's happening with that. It's again, that thing that like Rick Levine talks about, where it's layered. The same message is several times in the same chart.
Right. Exactly.
So it's sort of the same thing that Mars and Jupiter are saying. We have to do the right thing. And that's the moon square, the nodes. And so I wouldn't be surprised if something happens on Friday, or a decision is made on Friday, or some protests are stopped, or some agreement is made around the war, or something like that. Or we at least begin that process. And then on Saturday, I'm looking at this going, okay, well, I see Neptune's coming into an opposition with the South Node. So that's again reviewing. I feel like it's reviewing the fake news. Oh my goodness. But it's also Mercury is in a trine to Chiron. So I feel like Mercury and the Sun are having great conversations to help us step into who we need to be, where the change needs to happen. And of course, look at that. The moon is now in a trine to Uranus.
Mm-hmm. Joins that minor trine that's been present for a long time between Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus.
So maybe we come to some conclusions or how things could shift that might be better for everyone, especially with Uranus there and a trine to the moon in Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's pushing us towards better decisions that can serve everybody.
Yeah.
And as we move on through the weekend, I'd say personally, it could be a balanced weekend. You could, maybe tie up any loose ends about things that need to change or that might have been protested in your household. And there will be some resolutions to those things. There will be some recognition, especially with the Mercury retrograde with the sun and Leo. It's going to try to find a solution. I feel like Leo tries to find a solution to problems. And Mercury
That makes
rules
sense.
and Mercury rules Virgo, which is also a problem solver. They're not likely to just let problems flail out there. They're more likely, Leo and Virgo are more likely to try to find a resolution to that.
That's
so
right.
Mercury and Leo with the sun, there could be some resolutions trying to happen, or some things trying to come together, and they may actually come together easier than you thought.
Exactly.
Could be easy to find a resolution, could be easy to find an agreement. And I think that's really the theme for the weekend, is finding resolution.
Yeah, and it might be somebody from your past helping you solve something, because you've got this trine. The Mars is now in these lovely trines with Mars, Jupiter, and the South Node. So that says that's Mars and Jupiter. That action could be somebody from your past helping you connect with something or someone or resolve. That could be very nice. And of course, when the moon is in Aquarius, again, it's a we sign. It's meant to, it definitely is air. So I agree with you. Once again, it points at the same thing. Like, let's think our way through a better way to do this.
Especially with Gemini and Aquarius.
Exactly.
They're both thinkers.
Yep.
And they're both very like, let's think this through.
Exactly.
Especially Gemini tends to be very intellectual, and
Right.
they'll debate. Gemini has a very strong debate level.
Right.
So if we start seeing stuff about the debates this week, don't be surprised to see that happening. And then, because I would even say Mars and Jupiter together in Gemini is almost debate energy, because Gemini is very much about verbal fights and Mars is about fighting. It's like, and Jupiter is very intellectual and Gemini is very intellectual. Aquarius is usually pretty intellectual too, but they're also intellectual, like, hey, who wants to live in a world where some of us aren't treated fairly? I don't want to live in that world. And that's usually an Aquarius. So an Aquarius is going to appeal to your humanity in an intellectual way, which I feel that's like the Aquarian energy. All Aquarians, they land on their humanitarian side through intellectual thinking, where Virgo is just humanitarian at their grounding, right? And a Pisces just can feel how everyone needs to be at peace, right? And they're like water, where an Aquarian is like, intellectually, who wants to live in a world where we're not all treated fairly? And I think that that's how they land on their humanitarian efforts.
Yeah.
So
the week should end on a really good, you feel good about things.
Lots of resolution there. Lots
Yeah.
of resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm kind of excited, nervous and excited for us. Of course, we're going to the UK, so that can be a little bit of some nerve-wracking. I feel like a hobbit, but I'm always like this before we travel. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm literally like the hobbit. Like, if anyone knows me, I used to play a hobbit. I have a hobbit that I dress up like. I was a hobbit in a drag show. My name is Toby Longbottom, and there's a part of me that's hobbit energy. And if you pay attention to that movie or the book, anytime before the hobbit is about to travel, they're nervous. Do I have everything? Do I get everything? Did I take care of everything? Is there la 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 la? And that's me. I totally am that way. Totally. I love travel. I love the adventure. And I have a lot of hobbit energy before I leave. So here we are.
Which cracks me up, because I've been nicknamed Hopper that I'm like a little puffin before it takes off, where it hops around.
She does the same
And it
thing.
hops around before it goes, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm taking off. I'm taking off. You want to make sure everything's, So there you go. There's an image.
So we're a
for you.
trip to watch Get Ready. Apparently, our friends have told us. We have friends that have traveled with us that have been like, watching you two get ready is like a show all by itself. And we don't fight or anything. We're just like, did you pack the, and do you have the, and like, we're just constantly, it's cute. Probably it's funny. Usually people are laughing. So there's no fighting. It's just very cute. So
I hope you all have a good week with that information. What do you want to share with us, Lacrosse?
Well, we're still with the salmon, and
Yeah,
it's really like I've been doing a lot of digging into the salmon, and it's not supposed to be about comfort right now. It's supposed to be about challenges and change. And a lot of people don't realize salmon also represents community and legacy.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
They can,
Okay.
yep. And it's funny, they're a cycle. They're born, they leave, they transform, they leave, they come back, that return, they spawn, and they die. But what's interesting is when we think of them dying and how many things it's affecting. If salmon were to die, that would literally cause so much issues with the ecosystem because of what they contribute.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think of ourselves, we as the rainbow community need to find our community. We need to work together. We need to stand strong together because of what's the legacy we're going to leave for these new children of the rainbow coming, and I was really, really thinking about that, especially now I'm hitting into the elder stage. It's about being that good ancestor and what are the nutrients I'm going to leave behind for this next generation, because I've already done my spawning. That was our time. We fought, we spawned, we fought for the rights for marriage, we fought for these. So we had our spawn, but now what is the legacy and nutrients we're going to leave behind for them? So, and it's not supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I think just holding on to that and remembering that, the uncomfortable is not always bad. Sometimes it leads you to something really good. And I think trusting the universe is harder than it sounds.
Right? I mean, it's been a very uncomfortable year. 2024 has been an extremely uncomfortable year. Would you agree?
I concur 100%. It's been tough. It hasn't been terrible.
Right?
It's just been hard. It's been challenging, and it's literally making me its bee. It's like slapping me around.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's what I need.
Yeah. It hasn't been easy, that's for sure. And I've definitely experienced, Bright Hawk broke her leg, and that was definitely an experience for the both of us in the middle of the winter, and recovering from heart surgery, and then having hormone things that I've had to rectify, and then my son falling out, and that was really scary. And so, and even just like the world stage has been scary, with wars and terrible things happening all around the world, and what's going to happen to the United States and our politics. And I know the GLBTQ community has been very anxious about what happens if I mean, it's not, I'm just going to say it, what happens if Trump is voted in? That's a very scary thing for most queer people. Most of us are like
gives you the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, you get very scared and very worried that you're going to lose your rights, and that we could even become like government targets like they are in other countries. I think most of us are very aware of how it is in East Africa, right? I think it's East Africa. It's in Africa, places even like Nigeria and things like that. Queer people are are targeted all across Africa. I'm pretty sure it's over Central Africa. It's not so bad in Southern Africa, but from what I understand, it's in a lot of those countries that kind of span across the center. Um, and it's scary to think about, could the United States become that? And I think most of us are kind of like, yeah, it could, especially since we're the ones being targeted in this election. We are the target. And I think most of us feel that way. And I'm just going to be real about that. And that's our realness. I know that me and Brighthawk have talked about it. Like, we're a married couple. We file our taxes together. And it's very clear that we're a queer couple. I don't hide it. We're not in the closet. And that could be very scary, filing your taxes in a country that is banning us. And I know it's not necessarily against gay people, but it's definitely against transgender people. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm a transgender person. So it just, and I've been out for years. I have a book about it, so
Yeah, not really hiding there.
yeah, I'm not hiding. And people, you could easily figure out that I'm non-binary. And I've been standing up in that sort of fight, or that intellectual fight, for quite some time, with my Mars and Gemini intellectual fighting. See, and I think that's it's scary for me to think about it. It's scary for me to imagine Trump as president, and the whatever proposal 25, whatever it is. All of those things seem really scary to me. And that women have lost their rights. Look at what he's already done. So, yeah, so I'm just going to be real about that is a reality, I think, for most queer people. Most of the GLBTQ community, I think, was worried, and hopefully we feel better now. And I will say that I want to continue to look, but I'm pretty sure that Kamala and Walz are going to win. Like, astrologically, just some reassurance. I'm pretty sure that Kamala and Tim are going to win. They're going to win because they're a breath of fresh air. They're exactly what we're feeling right now, where we're all going, "Oh, thank God." Right? Okay. And I think that that's what we all needed. And I'm grateful, as much as I would have voted for Biden too. I don't have any problem with ages, but whatever. So I feel like I'd be happy to vote for the first female president. How about
Oh
that?
my gosh, wouldn't that be amazing?
I think she's a
We
pretty
need some fresh perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think she's a pretty great person. Like, if you just look, she's not perfect, but I haven't met a politician that is. And
I love that Walz doesn't feel like a politician, which is just so freaking refreshing.
yeah, he feels more like, he really does feel like a teacher coach type of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've listened to his talk just so I can see, so I encourage you to don't just stand around with your eyes closed going, "Oh, please don't." Don't do that. Go educate yourself and listen and find some hope, and follow that hope energy that's happening in the United States right now, if you're a United States citizen. And even if you're not and you follow United States politics, like, it's inspiring. Kamala and Walz are inspiring, I would say. It feels hopeful.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I'm going to pull 3 cards. Did I not have those cards last time? I just sat here and shuffled for like 5 minutes. Okay.
Wow.
I'm just going to let them happen then. So, this is the card from the past. This is the 6 of Pentacles, which is very much about it's very much about collaboration and how that brings resources in, and it's very, very important. It is a deep connection. Maybe you're feeling very collaborative with everyone. You're feeling like some collaboration is going on, and that's a real blessing. Okay. And that's really helpful, in that this is a reminder of the past, the collaboration you've already done, and what's coming together for you right now. What celebrations are happening right now with the 10 of Pentacles? This is very much about woohoo, these things are coming true, and it is a good collaboration, and we are creating good things together, and it is coming together. That's really what this card is about in the here and now. It's about what is coming together and how it will come together. And the thing is that in the future, I got the 5 of Cups, which is an interesting card. And I want to say that while it looks like a sad card, I just want to say that the thing that you always notice about this card is that there are 2 cups behind the person that is crying. So while they weep away what has been lost, which is the 3 cups in the front that have been knocked over, the 2 cups in the back are still up straight. So in the future, if you have some things that go wrong or some things that you lose, just know that that's okay, because these things are, you still have some pieces standing. Allowing those pieces to stand and allowing those pieces to be there, that's really the strength of this. And that's really the strength of this card. Is that you still have 2 pieces standing, even though some have fallen. So I think that's pretty much what the entire reading was, what the entire astrology thing was about. So remember the collaborative relationship that you've had and how that's gone for you and how that's brought forth certain resources. And as you go forward, notice your accomplishments and how that's happening for you and how that's coming together, and what blessings that's bringing your life, because that's what this is about the collaborations and commitments that you've had in the past and how they've blessed you going forward. And when you are going forward, if the cup spills, if something goes wrong, it's okay to mourn the loss of that, but don't forget about the pieces, the cups that are still standing up. And that's a very typical 5 of Cups theme, where we see what spilled and we forgot that we still have 2 cups standing up. So be aware that you still have some good points and not all is lost. And that's pretty much what we have to think about in the coming future. Okay.
Wow.
Very good.
Very
All right.
interesting. Yes, some of those cards are very familiar.
Yeah, I feel like they were just part of like the end of last readings. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah, that one looks familiar. The one with the first 2. The first 2 are definitely recent.
Okay, yeah. So whichever.
It's
But-
funny.
That's got reconfirming. It's just saying, hey, yeah, I think you need to hear it again. You didn't catch it last time.
Right. So just keep going forward. Try not to spend too much time on the spilled milk.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for watching Rainbow Soul, where we try to be a bridge. Oh, remember to like, share, and subscribe and all that wonderful stuff and support. Where we try to be a bridge between you and the stars.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's Soulstrology and subscribing, liking, sharing, and reviewing. We hope you enjoyed this dose of Soulstrology and encourage you to embrace the week ahead with an open mind and heart so that you may integrate the deepest of lessons from the stars. Take a moment to step outside and honor the planets, stars, and moon in the sky with your heart. Integrate the messages that resonate and leave the rest for someone else. We deeply appreciate each and every one of you. Always remember that you are a perfectly unique human with an exclusive star map of your destiny, your soul purpose, and your heart's desire. Thank you again for tuning in to Rainbow Soul.